This is a movie review of The Witch from 2015. Uh, Robert Eggers' The Witch crafts a horror nearly wholly internal. The external environment is not the source of evil, but the echo of something already present in the characters. The aesthetic is one of suffocation by slow spiritual erosion, a Puritan fever dream rendered in earth, wood, candlelight, and the relentless whispering wind of the dark forest abyss. The fear it conjures is of the monsters inside guilt, self doubt, pride, and the hollowness of faith when it fails to answer. Eggers uses every cinematic tool to evoke the atmosphere. The mise en scene is sparse and naturalistic, wooden structures, muted woolens, and the gray mist of early mornings, creating a kind of visual repression. Cameras act as a tour guide in this film. Very tight shots in vignette light when the focus is on the character. These shots widen out to trick the watcher into being seduced by the notion that some great foreboding may be coming from the external environment. There are also momentary reverences paid to the holy, divine strokes of grandeur provided by the landscape as gift of God. The approaching winter is never named, but deeply felt. This is the ticking clock of spiritual collapse. Sound design becomes prophecy. A baby disappears, not with a scream, but with a silence sharp enough to wound. The music is minimal, often reduced to strings or dissonant choral fragments. Mark Corvin's score guides the viewer through reverent cello lullabies and into ritual cacophony, moving from restraint to invocation. When Mercy chants to Black Phillip and the children echo her, it no longer feels like play, it feels like liturgy. You can almost sense the beating of a war drum coming from the strained hearts and paranoia. Shadows stretch not because something enters them, but because something has left us unprotected. The moment we begin to identify with a character, we recognize that the danger is emerging from within. Beauty pulses through the film's imagery, comp, um, compositions that evoke Goya and Caravaggio, not to glorify terror, but to make it feel inevitable. Thomason does not stumble into evil. She's pushed into it by a world that calls its decay divine. The forest, rather than a place of punishment, becomes a place of revelation. Scene analysis of Caleb's possession and death. The scene is not a turning point. It is the ritual summit. Caleb returns from the woods trembling, his body ravaged by exposure and something else unnamed, pre-hypothermic. He collapses. He begins to speak in exalted tones, praising Christ with a breathless ecstasy. His voice rises not in terror but in longing. His eyes flutter and he moans as if being embraced by something beyond understanding. The film dares to ask whether this is salvation or possession, whether he's been claimed by God or it's a lie told in his name. The camera pulls close, trapping us in the room with him. Candlelight softens the edges, turning the scene womb-like, almost sacramental. The editing stretches time, demanding that we linger with every breath. The silence becomes thick, textured, a presence of its own. When Caleb coughs up the apple, it is not merely a symbol of original sin. It is the fruit of knowledge consumed and returned, as if to say, I have seen too much. He dies with a smile, not one of peace, but of transcendence, or delirium. And this, more than any monster, is the film's deepest terror. The spiritual ecstasy and madness might look exactly alike, that our deepest faith may be the final mask by something we do not understand. The witch as metaphor, mirror, and flame. Before Thomason is named, before the goat speaks, before the storm breaks fully across the family's foundation, we see her, A cloaked figure, chocolate-robed, barely visible, running off through the trees with baby Sam. She is the first note struck in the ritual, not a villain, but an agent of something older. She is the midwife of the forest reckoning. The sacrifice is not random nor cruel. It is a correction, a signal that the family's performance of holiness has been rejected by the land that they now trespass upon. Black Philip does not enter later. He's already there, walking softly in cloven hooves. The family rejoices in prayer on their own plot of soil, but the soil already belongs to another order. The figure, whether witch or watcher or wandering Philip himself, is not abducting the child. She's beginning the clock. Her movement sets the crescendo in motion, ripping the strong suit mask from each family member. They are forced to face what lives beneath, the projection, vanity, manipulation, hollowness, and hunger. It is not evil that enters the home. It is truth, and it begins with her. The witch is not merely a metaphor. She is the consequence of repression. She is the embodiment of all that faith refuses to name: desire, power, rage, and selfhood. She is what a girl becomes when innocence is punished and curiosity condemned. Thomason does not become a witch through sin, but through accusation. Every whisper, every suspicion, each blame cast without evidence, these form the ritual that make her. She is not seduced by darkness. She is offered no choice. The father's pride, the mother's projection, the siblings' mockery, all conspire to cast her as the other. And when no one will speak for her, Black Philip does. He does not tempt. He recognizes. Wouldst thou like to live deliciously? It's not an invitation. It's a coronation. Black Philip as Baphomet, as Lucifer, as familiar and master is not evil in this moment. He is clarity. He offers what the family never did, agency. The goat whom the children sang to like a god steps from the metaphor into myth. He becomes the one being who does not ask for submission, only for acknowledgement. Thomason is not corrupted. She's finally seen. She walks into the woods, not as a villain, but as a girl who refused to die quietly. The witch, then, is the flame beneath the surface, the part of us that waits, that remembers, that does not beg to be good, when good has always meant obedient.